Welcome back. Okay. Woo! It's nice to be back. I was thinking for a moment that BT were going to disconnect us, but anyway, maybe we do need to go with Talk. But anyway, we're back with Muck straighteners, as you can see, the styling stick. So as I was saying to you earlier on, the styling stick, it does a great job, as with many styling sticks, but the difference with this is it's those little red lights that really do put the condition into the hair. Sorry, you can see there. Okay, now there's a little trick that I learned from the Ukraine when I went out there. Now on a man's hair, you want to get a little bit of kick out the top. You'll find with the stick, you have to put the stick in at an angle, and then literally it's a question of just taking the hair and just pulling it up. Okay, you'll see what it's doing now. Gives us just a little bit of movement, just a fraction bit. Remember, later we'll go through this with product and it will give us that little bit more lift. But now what we're trying to do is encourage the body and the movement through the top. All we do then is just come through to the front, and then that's all that does. That starts the game rolling. Okay, so again, when the product goes in later, you will see the shape come back on. That's if we don't get cut off, because of course we got cut off last week once, obviously tonight it's twice. Right, so now we're going to go into scissor over comb. Again, when you scissor over comb, very important to sit down and make sure that the angle's correct, the same as when you're doing a one-length haircut. I tend to think of being at eye level, which is really important, because again, it's a question of you don't want to try and guess at this part. So with scissor over comb, for those of you that do scissor over comb, you know exactly how it works. You keep your hand moving and the comb moving. Again, it's the comb that dictates the shape, and all the other hand is doing is keeping the rhythm with the scissors, which then again acts as the electronic clippers. You find with scissor over comb, it lasts a little bit longer than electronic clippers. I tend to find you'll probably get 3 weeks out of scissor over comb. It's probably 2 weeks with a pair of clippers. But again, it's coming back. Gentry's barbering is really big. Everybody's getting into shaving and everybody's getting into scissor over comb. So I tend to use the wider part of the comb first and the thinner part of the comb after, for the simple fact if you make a mistake with the larger part of the comb, you can then get yourself out of jail with the thinner part of the comb, which is always good if you make a mistake. But again, the secret is don't make a mistake. So just keep it moving, and then all it literally is a question of is just moving the comb out. You'll see the scissors are working at a similar rhythm, so it's consistent. And then all it is a question of just literally just moving the comb in and out of the hair. Again, the other thing to consider on this is not to go too short, and also you need to consider what the hair's like. Is it curly? Is it wavy? You know, these are all important aspects in order to get a shape right. I tend to find that I'm thinking of an invisible line as I'm going through at this point, so I'm trying to blend the comb out to an invisible line, which will then give us an amazing shape. Again, with clippers, when you're using those, I tend to start off with a larger guard and work my way down, for the simple fact the graduation sits a lot better. This is quite a messy part whenever we get somebody in as a trainee to come and work with us, or an apprentice that starts out. You put them on scissor over comb, obviously it's flicking absolutely everywhere, it goes all over my hands. The secret is to try and deflect the hair so it stays away from the guest. Now, these are always the tricky bits, the ears. You just got to try and hold that with a comb. Go and do what I did many years ago and take a chunk out of somebody's ear. It takes 2 days to stop bleeding. It's not particularly an attractive sight, but again, it's a question of just working with the blade and thinking where you're going with it. As you can see, I'm really coming through the sides now. When we get to the bottom of the nape, we'll go into it with thinning scissors and keep that shape really, really tight, so it looks a little bit more stronger. The idea is, obviously, you've got to do something that suits the guest's face and make sure that obviously it's complementary. If it was too short, it won't work. So again, you're looking at key features. You're looking at bone structure on the cheekbones. You're looking at the temple where it sits. You're looking at how the sideburns are, if they're long or short. Does it grow curly around the back of the ears? These are all things you have to consider. And of course, you can see how easy the hair is to comb through with a comb, because you've got products in there already, which again is making it easy. Some products make it harder. Again, blow drying with the paste from Muck, I find it's really quite easy just to be able to do that on the blowout mousse. So your choice of product's really important, because again, it's what's going to add to the finish when you're doing the cut. So again, it's just keeping it clean. I tend to look in the mirror a little bit so you're getting a three-dimensional view of what's going on. You can see the hair's quite strong on Ian's hair. And it's just a question of just keeping it nice and clean. Again, with blonde hair, it's always quite interesting because you see on my hand it just goes everywhere. That's the thing though with blonde hair. We washed Ian's hair tonight with the blonde shampoo and the blonde conditioner. With the blue that's in the blonde shampoo, it reflects with the light, which again makes the natural blonde and the natural highlights really exaggerated, a little bit like when you used to put blue in with a white shirt in our younger days. I know my mother used to do that, and you'll find that obviously it reflects against the light, which then gives a really brilliant white shine. So again, a lot of guests now are trying to find that they're looking for things to rejuvenate colour, make the colour last a little bit longer. And you're finding with shampoos and products it's really important to do that. People that have got blonde hair, it's great if you use the blonde shampoo, because again, I find that it rejuvenates what it's all about, and people are saying to me, oh, that colour looks really fresh. And again, it's a question of just trying to think about what you're doing. We are problem solvers. That's what I love about hairdressing. When I went to hairdressing college, it was great to learn the problem solving of the actual the career itself, let alone helping people with their own personal problems, which is what we do. We're in a very privileged position as a doctor, but I also find that we are problem solving. So somebody would come in and say, i.e., I've got you know, like long hair, I want you to do something different with it, but keep it long, don't change it. So of course then you have to think in that situation as a problem solver, you've got to come up with some kind of layering technique that will make the hair still look long, but also be in a position where you're able to create some magic with it, which of course is what you do as hairdressers every day, which I respect that. A lot of people never give hairdressers as much gratitude as they should, because I think, as with any artist, you know, you're creating a canvas, and every guest is a canvas when you're creating it every day. I tend to think of it as magic when you are working with hair. Here is a nice little smile. He's obviously liking his hair, he's looking in the mirror. It's either that or we'll be throwing a brick through my window later.
No.
Talk about bricks. So this is the orange brick. We're talking about the brick system, like building on blocks. This is now we're into the orange brick part of the cut, the finishing off and the natural finishing part of it, where we're personalising each part of the hair to the guest. Again, long or short, it's all different. I remember once in my career, only one day only, I did 8 haircuts of the same haircut. Everybody wanted graduated bobs, and they were curly, straight, but not one of them looked the same, because obviously each person's hair is different, the way it sits, the technique that you use could be different, but also the texture of the hair is different, and the way people wear it's different, because of course, let's face it, everybody's wearing their hair differently today. I tend to find if you give people options of how they can wear their hair, it's great, as in, i.e., cut the hair from the middle of the hair, you can actually wear it left or right, so a customer could wear their hair on the right one day, another day they could wear it on the left, but you're giving them a choice, or as the Americans call it, multiple options, which I really like. It's really cool. But again, people are in a society now where they want a daytime look to go out, or they want a nighttime look, so we call it a wardrobe. And you know, you can have it body in the daytime, smooth at night, so that's what it's all about. So getting back to what we're doing here now, just blending all the colours in, starting to just take shape a little bit. So again, it's a question of just keeping it clean on the sections. It's that fade out on the ends when you're coming out, just to keep that really, really clean and tidy. And then of course, When the hair is quite wavy, it's a question of just sort of looking at it how it lies, you know. Don't be frightened to move it around a bit. It's almost like a portable chopping board when you move your scissors around. So once you've sort of roughly got that in, I tend to find then you get the, when I say got that in, obviously that means the shape created. We're now going to go into, for the next sort of 10 minutes, using pair of thinning scissors and cleaning everything up. So it really just takes the edge off the diamond almost and just polishes it off. Again, coming in from the bottom now. I said I wanted to take this in quite tight. Let's just bring the camera around the other side, Dad, if we can. I think probably wants to look at my hand. And you might just be able to see a little bit more there. That's it. Okay, so let's just pull the camera back a bit. That's it. You might be able to see better in the light. So we can now see, as I'm just taking some off, this really, the thinning scissors reduce 50% of the hair. Every time you strike a cut with thinning scissors, it reduces 50%. Now you should be able to see that middle panel just there. We're soft in the nape and we're coming through to the shape on the top. So you can see where we're going at. It's almost like if you cut hair with a pair of clippers and it grows out sort of 2 to 3 weeks, you've got that real sort of softer look, which again a lot of people are liking at the moment. It's something different. When we explore the next gentleman's haircut that we do in this series, you'll see me really go tight with that and really clean it off. Again, confirmed for doing this, we've got another 5 models, which they know who they are. They've all been named, and I've tagged them in, which you'll see a variety of haircuts, which we intend to do this over the next 5 weeks. I thought I wanted to do it a couple of nights of the week, but I thought everybody's busy with their lives, watching Coronation Street, EastEnders, Tomorrow's World if it's still on, Dallas. Obviously everybody's busy doing what they're doing, and I appreciate those that are watching now. You know, I really appreciate the fact you're taking time out to watch tonight. Some of you may be learning something new, some of you may not be, but I really respect the fact that you're taking the time to sit and watch this. And obviously it's pulling you away from maybe EastEnders tonight if it is on, or your dinner or whatever you're doing, and the children. So you can see the nape now, it's starting to go a little bit more cleaner in there, but it's also quite casual around the bottom. So what we'll do then is we'll take that out with the clippers later and then just soften that line off, which then creates a nicer shape. So now we're just going to come through the sides. Kelly said to me, Kelly prepares my sandwich every day. She's probably watching tonight. She said to me, I never see your bracelet. There you go, you get a nice shot of my bracelet now. So when I put that on last week, and the first thing when I went to get my sandwich was, she said it looked great, but I didn't see that beautiful bracelet. So it was nice because it was a gift off my beautiful wife, just in case I forget what I do for a job. But again, it's art, as this is art, and every haircut that everybody that watches this tonight produces every day. Keep your questions rolling in. If there's any questions tonight, I'm sure you'll appreciate that when I finish tonight, I will want to sit and have a little chat with Ian and sit and relax, and then I will do my best to answer those questions for you, or certainly receive those very kind comments or any kind of criticism that anybody has. So now we can see the shape on one side. We've got a little bit more of a stronger sculpture here. Remember, we'll need to clean this up, so certainly within the next 10 minutes we'll be doing that. Just going to come round to the other side and start to clean off this side now. You can really start to see the difference, so we'll just go in there. The reason I wanted to share this technique tonight was it's easy to put a pair of clippers on Ian's hair tonight and sort of manipulate it with a number 2 guard or a number 3 guard and create that softness in the bottom. But I thought, let's just go more along the lines of physical cutting with a pair of thinning scissors and just really sort of demonstrate to you the difference of how you can produce a look that looks smart but is soft and natural. I tend to do this a lot as an alternative for gentlemen, because they again tend to want something that's not so clean cut. So again, using the stroking technique I did earlier, you can see that all over the head. When I do haircuts, and then all I do then is just finish off with this technique afterwards, and that just keeps it nice and clean and tidy. So let's just come through here. That's it, keep you nice and still. That's it. Got an arm bar to contend with. Can't quite reach over there. So again, it's just keeping the rhythm of the blade moving, and also the comb. The comb really is dictating where I'm going with this, and then when I come in a little bit closer, I'll go in with the scissors or the electronic clippers, just to keep that shape really, really tight and strong just around the perimeter area. But certainly for the remainder of it, when you put wax through this now, it'll create a really nice soft effect, which I'm guessing that this is the first time that Ian's had this kind of technique used on his head. Again, it's great just to do something different, especially with the razor blade through the top there. What I'm sort of showing you with that, that's the purpose of these live feeds for you, that we can actually share things that we do at Scott Belly Hairdressing with the team. I mean, you know, we like to be a little bit different, a little bit experimenting, as most of you probably sitting there thinking, well, we experiment and we try things different. I'll pick that up when I go to salons, you know, which I really, really appreciate and I absolutely love and embrace. And you know, let's not forget the people that mix products together and produce really nice effects, and people that are not afraid to twist their scissors around at a funny angle, and you know, it's great. It's just nice to be able to do that. So now I'm going to come through to the top, just to bring this in a little bit more, soften it up, and then we'll come back into the perimeter shape, I should imagine, in about the next 6 minutes. And then we'll be finishing off in certainly the next sort of 15, just before 15 minutes, and giving you a roundup on what we've been doing with the haircut. So I'm now just sort of coming through the top, and just really, rather than going into the roots, just softening through the top there and just really making that look softer. So we've already done the root texture. We're now doing the outer part of the haircut with the texturization scissors, and that then just creates more of a softer look. So when the wax goes in at the end, certainly in our case paste, it will produce an even stronger look, so it will look even softer. So of course it's just a question of thinking where you're going with it, and of course watching your fingers, because you don't really want to catch those. If I was in the salon, I'd be working a bit slower than this. This is show speed, just to keep everybody intrigued on what's going on. So I wouldn't recommend that you really cut as fast as this when you're in the salon, otherwise people might tend to panic. So again, it's a very visual part of the cut now. What we're looking at is anything that actually looks as if it doesn't sit right, and it needs to blend in with what we're doing. So don't be afraid to move it around and sort of see how soft it's looking. And again, a duty of care for a customer is just to keep that face nice and clean. Right, the razor blade. Let's just put the blade in now, just soften it off a bit. Which again, it's quite nice just to be able to soften this off. Just hear that sort of going through. Again, it's more texture, so you're just gliding it through like a comb. So I call this the two-way. And what you're doing is you're then bringing it over the second way. And then that just gives us even more. So you can see how much texture we've got on this. We've got absolutely loads of texture. Right, through to the fringe. We need to now just make sure that the fringe is looking all right. So we'll go in with over the comb first of all. Make sure that just sits in quite nice. So again, it's very visual. I'll come back into this again in a moment with electronic clippers, just to make sure that everything looks nice and soft. And then it's a question of making sure your balance is right, because again, if you're ever on stage, the audience is your mirror, so you really have to rely on balance. And again, I tend to try and cut hair sometimes without using a mirror, because it practices you for when you haven't got a mirror. Some of us do our parents' hair at home, as I used to. And again, if you've not got a mirror, then you've got to be good with a pair of scissors. Right, eyebrows. This is always an interesting one. Let's just get the music a minute. Sounds like it's sticking. So let's just... It's a real night of technology tonight. Everything's really sort of being quite entertaining. Right, so eyebrows, let's just comb that up. At least you can see it's live and it is properly. If you go past the salon now, you'll see we're working. So just lifting the hair up and then literally just combing it in and then cutting it, just to make sure that everything, if there's anything there to take off, and then just freehand cutting just to make sure that all the ends are off there. Okay, we'll come round to the other side. Comb goes in, just comb it the opposite way, and then just take it off. I tend to stand behind the guest because then that way you can actually look at the angle of the eyebrows and sort of see. So I'm looking that way on as I'm coming through. So I generally would sort of see if there's any bits. Now, just around the temples, just making sure that's all nicely cleaned off and everything's all nice and clean in there, as with around the edges of the ears. If there's any in there as well, just go in with your scissors. Don't be frightened to take it off. And again, obviously repeating on the other side. Come over here, sweetheart. That's it. There you go. My little friend. That's what you always used to say to me. So now we're just going through the edges on the perimeter. This just cleans everything up. So we really are sort of starting to come to the end of the haircut now. I'll be starting to think at this point which parts are going to grow out. Because again, with a haircut, you need to be thinking about what will it look like in 3 weeks' time. It looks great now, but what will it look like in 3 weeks' time? A bit like when you play snooker. You play that shot, where does the white ball end up to then take the next shot? It's the anticipation of how it's going to grow out. So some people go 6 weeks, some people go 2. I've got a lot of regular guests that come every 2 weeks, men. I've got a lot of men that come every 8 weeks. It's a question of what works. So you're thinking about the part ahead to the future of how it will look when they come back. This time of the year doesn't help because of course you've got, like with the grass, it grows really quick, so you've got to be able to think about hair. It grows fast. Let's just come around here. Oh no! That's it. It's a good job I know you, being so close with that camera. It's really good. So now all I need to do is just get the electronic clippers out and just go into the neck hair and just clean that off and just make sure everything looks good. So I'm like a cookery pro, this does now. So I watch a lot of MasterChef. Maybe we should have started at the beginning and said time to cut. So again on the swirl, the crown, it's very visual. Okay, so electronic clippers. Here we go. I just need the stool. Thanks, my little friend. Right, it helps at this point now just to open the blade slightly, because then by opening the blade slightly it just gives you a little bit more to play with. A bit like the larger part of the comb. Closing it then becomes the smaller part of the comb. So then all I want to be able to do with this is just pop the blade in and use it really as like a pencil, just to soften the edges off. And then what we're doing there is making sure that's cleaned off. We then close it. Take the hair up just there, under you go, underneath, clean that off, and then by doing that it then creates a soft edge. And just take everything off just through there. The idea is, again, it looks very natural. Just have to think about what's doing on the, obviously on the edges just here, just to make sure that's clean. So this really is the final part now. When you get to this part, you're sort of leaving all these parts to the very end. I know a lot of people, when I teach them, they're always eager to take off the neck hair, but I always wait until the very end, purely because it starts to show what the cut looks like and where it's going. So then you can start taking all the neck hair out. Again, the same on this side. Give yourself plenty of room to play with it, because then if things don't sit right, just put you on the stairs. Oh, you go on the stairs, that's it. Yeah, lovely, that's it. Oh, try to kick my chair. Oh, thanks. That's alright, if you kick my chair next time, I'll probably take the ear off. Oh, don't worry, I know when you play. It's alright. Right, so we close it off. Again, now it's just it's because of concentrating with the lens. It's very good camera work, I have to say. So now this again just takes it through to soften the edges off, and then into the neck. A lot of people said last week, they said to me, A lot of people said to me last week, they said, I cannot believe what goes into a haircut, the amount of technical part that goes in. There's a lot of technical in hairdressing. A lot of people think it's dead easy, you just pick the hair up and cut it off. I mean, you know, there's a lot to be thinking about. Like I said, it's the body positioning, it's the hand positioning, you know, there's a lot of things to think about, but hopefully with these cuts that we're doing over the next few weeks for you, you'll all hopefully learn something new and something exciting and something different. So it's going to go around the ears now. Just clean that off. His tongue's out, it's concentrating on that camera. That's it. So now, again, the comb's great. You can use the comb as like a guard. If you run out of guards, use your comb. It's the equivalent to number one. Again, a little trick. I used to work at Remy's in Leicester. That's where I first started when I was 15. Some 29 years ago now. I think how long ago it was. Get my age, you start forgetting. Right, so let's come around to the other side. Just to clean all this off, make sure everything's all nice and tidy again. Just taking little bits out, just to make sure alright. Again, it's just all these pieces that grow out really, really quick. So you just want that off there, just to keep that nice and clean. We didn't want it to look too perfect. We wanted it to look clean, but you know, not sort of like skinned up, fresh for the Marines. Just want it just to look a bit tighter. So it's motorcycle helmet friendly, because of course Ian rides a motorcycle very regular. So, with being the good teacher that he is, he needs to be able to get to work and also have a nice helmet friendly haircut, so when you take your helmet off it's easy to wear. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the top of the ears now, just to make sure that these are all okay. Visually, it's just a question of now just looking at things and thinking as a hairdresser, where do I need to really just sort of change it and just make sure everything sits in perfect. Okay. For Ricky Morris that's watching tonight, obviously my hands are quite busy at the moment, and Paul Long, we have got the handbrake award out on the desk. That'll just flick it round for you. There you go. But you quite might like that with it being out here. I know you were saying last week, where is it? It's obviously there. It's for in recognition for dancing. Recently I was presented that. So let's just come around here. I tend to dance around when I'm cutting hair. So let's just go through this part now. So again, it's just very important just to make sure that these little parts are just really, really done nicely. And everything just sits in. Again, you'll see it's soft around the perimeter edge, soft around the top. Okay. So, what we'll do now is literally just dust everybody down. It's very important at this point just to take everything off. Nice little trick, especially when you're doing men's hair, is get some heat from the hairdryer, warm up a brush, and then it feels really nice and warm to the guest that wears it, but also it attracts the hair and takes it off. And you'll find that it'll stick to the brush, cleans it off nice and tidy, and then of course it's a bit like the old days when you used to use talcum powder. As it gets cooler, it obviously doesn't work, but it's really quite nice. At this point now, just blow all the loose hair out to make it even more comfortable for the guest. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'll just do again a visually check just to make sure that everything's okay. We're happy. Hopefully we're looking in the mirror and nodding at this point and going, so if not, then we've got problems. Now at this point I would be wanting to use a wax to finish off, so I'm now going to use a slightly harder wax. So I'm going to go with a styling paste called Savage Muck, which is the latest paste that they've just brought out. A little bit harder than hard muck, obviously with the name Savage, but again it's such a great product. The reason being, all the hard work that I put in earlier, I want to be able to sort of see it. Now you have to really work this product into your hands. I said last week that the other product was a bit harder to work. This is even harder. Now the difference is, put this on and you can immediately see the texture that I've cut in straight away. This is why I've chose to use this product, because I really want to showcase all the hard work that we've gone in with all the different texturizing techniques, so you can really sort of see it. And again, this hair will go left or right, wherever you decide to put it. So if Ian decides that he wants to have a non-motorcycle helmet day, he can not put the helmet on and just go out and just put his aviators on or whatever and cruise around with his sunglasses on. Or of course he can wear it flatter and it will still look good. Again, you can have the fringe up or down. It's cut multi different ways, so it will give that shape. As I said to you earlier on, it's really important because we've kept that weight on the sides. If we'd have took that weight off, then it would have gone more rounded to the head and it would have created a completely different look. But again, it's your choice at the end of the day if you wanted to take that off. But I felt that with keeping the weight on, it was just easier to then just give us more choice on the hair. The beautiful thing about this scissors, I'm now putting my hands through the hair, you can actually really sort of see where the shape's coming in and all the texture that I've cut in. And again, it makes the hair look a little bit thicker on the top. But again, it's that cutting it forward with the razor in that channel motion that creates the shape, which is what it's all about. Okay, so we've now got the shape and the cut. Hopefully we've got a haircut that the customer likes.
Very much.
And again, it's that softer look in the neck. So let's just quickly go through a quick recap of what we did. So when we started the haircut, we went with, if you remember, we cut with the sculpting, so the blowout mousse, the muck blowout mousse, which again allowed us to see the natural movement of the hair, which I said to you earlier on. It's really important to be able to put something on a product that then gives us this condition, which we then start to break the hair down and give us that fabric that we could use and work with better. Secondly, we then used the filthy muck, which was the gritty paste, which we then blow dried the hair with, which then gave us a little bit more movement and we could see where we were going with it. We then used all the techniques, but then finished off with, when we went in, we used the Savage muck to finish off with, which then again gave us even more texture and movement into the hair. In terms of breaking down the haircut, if we just go back to the haircut now, we can sort of see we went through, if you remember, we did the horseshoe section, which was first of all, which then allowed us to then do the technique with the hands as we were going through palm to palm, which is very important. The hands were dictating which direction we were going in. We were cutting to the second knuckle, we were keeping it clean, we were moving around the body, which again was very important. We then took out the weight on the side section, which then left it squarer. We then came through to the top and used the texturization between the apex and the upper occipital bone, which again was very important when we used the stroking technique with the scissors, which again gave us that jagged look which you get with a razor blade. We then came through to the top and used the spokes of a wheel, which I explained for you, to come forward, which again was dictated by time. We went from 9 to 12 on one side, which allowed us to cut from this side of the hair. We then changed our body position and came around here and went from 12 to 3, which then allowed us to move the hair cut round the opposite way. We also used an angle on the top of the hair with the layer, which then allowed us to take more weight out of the front panel, which then gave us more body through the top. We then went in with a series of different texturizing techniques. We did the twist cut, we did the texturization, we did the chopping, we did a little bit of razor cutting. We came in with the clippers and cleaned around the edges. But most importantly, what I shared with you tonight, we came into the back and did the thinning scissors, which again gave us a really soft look. If you just look at the back, you can sort of see that, just how soft that looks into the neck. Again, it was not done with clippers, there's no solid line, it's really, really soft in the neck, and that's what gave us that look, which I'm sure you'll agree is giving us a really nice effect. Now we'll see the model Ian in his natural state with his shirt on. Give us a little wave.
Hi guys.
Oh, but your wife will be watching now. She's probably thinking, "Oh, that looks nice," or she'll be coming down to sort me out, literally to say the least, and say, "Yes, Scott, it looks good or it looks bad." But the idea is, you can see just how natural it looks. If we're just sort of spinning around, you can tell now just how natural everything looks. It just flows quite naturally around, and that's what we really wanted to achieve tonight with this haircut. So it's real natural. Again, really important. Again, really, really important to remember when you're doing things, it's got to be cleanly done. You know, I can't emphasise enough about body position, hand positioning. I always say the hand is the best rake that you can use, the best comb. It's all a question of thinking things through and planning it, and cleanliness. again, thank you very much to Ian for being a model tonight. Absolutely superb. I mean, I couldn't ask for a nicer model tonight. You'll see in the next, as I said, 5 weeks, we've got 5 more models to come, so I shall announce when we're doing the next haircuts, which will range from a short haircut through to a medium haircut through to long hair. The idea is I want to explore different things for you. Also, many thanks to Muck also tonight as well for sponsoring us with their products. You know, we really appreciate that. As I said last week, I'm very proud to be your UK Artistic Director, which hopefully my boss is pleased with that. We're having a meeting this week, so that'd be cool. Also, many thanks to all of you that support us and do this, because again, without you watching this and without you sending very nice comments as you did last week, we can't do this. So thanks for taking your time away from your children and away from EastEnders and Coronation Street, you know, to take time out to do this. Again, I said we are live. If you're driving past, you would have seen us tonight. We'll return next week with something different, something exciting also, and some more cutting techniques for you. But in the meantime, don't be afraid to try something different. And as I always say to you, try and break some rules and try and experiment and do something different. But in the meantime, don't forget your dreams. I spoke last week with a friend, he was down in Essex. I turned around to him, Kingy. He was watching me, and he said, you know, I've gone out, I'm going to get my dream. What you said about dreams, so please, chase your dreams. I know you all have dreams. You want to be on a cruise ship, have your own salon, or if you want to just do something different in hairdressing, make that dream happen, okay? Because I know you can do that. In the meantime, on behalf of everybody here, on behalf of Scott Belly Cutting Education, Scott Belly Hairdressing, Ian, my dad, and Muck Hair Care, it's been an absolute pleasure to be here tonight live on your screen, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. In the meantime, have a great week and enjoy what you do, because again, your guests tomorrow morning will be looking for you to make them feel as wonderful as Ian feels and I feel tonight. And keep up the great work, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Take care. Ciao for now. Good night. God bless.